witches, blessed full moon in Sagittarius, and blessed summer solstice, or Letha,
and blessed Juno Moneta. And if you're like, but Evanne, what the heck is that? Well, just follow along whilst we take you later on in the episode on a very special Juno journey for June.
Ooh. As you can see, we are not in my dining room right now.
We are not. Not unless you've changed a lot of things in your house.
It could just be a glamour too. We could be actually, and this is all magic.
But that would be a lot of effort that we frankly just didn't want to do.
Yes. So we are at my partner's parents' farm in their backyard. Well, in their farm, at the farm. But as you can see, there's a barn. We got chickens and nature, and it's great and summery. And there's this amazing tree of life apple tree over here that like every branch is a different type of apple. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, we're really excited that you're joining us on this.
If you're here, thank you so much. And if you came back, thank you for putting up with our crap.
Yes, you know the drill. If you like what you see and love hanging out with us, then do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and help us spread this little baneful and blessed coven that we're building in our little corner of the circle.
Exactly. Where we are two homos, one chalice, and it is a spellbinding good time.
Absolutely right. So a little heads up on what we're doing. So we are going to be doing Witchcraft in the news. We know last episode was just like hot topics.
It was.
Once again, this episode, it's back to kind of like a little bit here or there. It's all interesting, but not a lot of stuff. We have Astrology Mixology. And then from there, we're going into, obviously, why we're here, Summer Solstice, and all the things that surround that. And then we have Delicious Witch, which will be a wonderful gazpacho, red gazpacho and lobster bisque. It's going to be amazing and perfect for this traditional time of year. SpellCraft.
Yes.
All about the fae folk.
Exactly.
And then we are not doing Pagan Invasion because it's a Sabbath episode. And what is the rules? None of that shit on a Sabbath.
No crystal castles on the Sabbath.
No, that Witchy Media review, yes, we are doing, and it is going to be the 2005 summer blockbuster hit, The Skeleton Key, starring Kate Hudson and Peter Sarsgaard. My apologies.
I want to Peter Sarsgaard.
My apologies. I didn't mean it. Yeah, so we have a lot of footage. We have a lot of little segments going on. It's going to be a fun, jam-packed episode. So thank you for joining us. All right.
Yes.
We have Witchcraft in the news.
Yeah, so let's get that kicked off right now. So my first topic that I stumbled across and thought was worth mentioning was that Eric Erickson, whose parents apparently have a terrible taste in baby names.
Yes.
But who is also a conservative blogger and radio host, as well as a former politician from Macon, Georgia, wrote a blog post this week stating that Casey Means, who is Trump's nominee for Surgeon General, is a witch.
Okay.
He cited things to prove this, quote unquote, such as that she, at one point in her life, has done meditation, let go of things that no longer served her, wrote out mantras for herself. So all of this, she's of course
a new age,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But he's decided that all of this makes her a practicing witch, and he says that in this post that these things make her unfit to perform as Surgeon General.
I mean, first of all, if she were to be a witch, I mean, who cares?
Exactly.
First and foremost, we can do anything. We can do anything. But who gives a shit?
Exactly.
Second of all, it's not true.
No.
She's very conservative Republican. I mean, very. And honestly, she's dangerous as the Surgeon General for that shit.
Yes,
like,
but not for any
type of like meditation, mantras, releasing of things that no longer serve her. I think there's like crystals.
Yes.
Like,
none of that has any bearing on her ability to perform her job.
No, and I'm sorry, that is like, yes, that is very much like steeped in New Age stuff.
Yes.
But that has been heavily adopted by the right.
Absolutely.
And by the GOP and by conservatives.
Yes.
And I mean, and the whole anti-vaxxers, and there's the whole New Age to anti-vax, pipeline.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't...
None of that
equates to witchcraft.
No,
and I feel like if she were actually a witch, I mean, she would more than likely would be a Democrat,
Yes,
or some kind of liberal. I mean, that's obviously not always true.
Right. I mean, certainly there can be conservative witches
as
out
we
there.
know, like there are, and conservative pagans, conservative witches, whatever. And,
right.
And I think it's the antithesis of witchcraft. Like, I think it's just kind of like other things that I feel are very cognitive dissonance when it comes to being a witch and something else. But whatever, we're not here to judge.
No.
On camera in public, but we behind back off we do.
Oh yeah. And I just think that goes so much back into this whole thing that we are seeing right now in Christian influencers on TikTok and Instagram, saying that anything coming from anything remotely magical related or new agey at all, like that's all demonic,
Right. It's like they're calling everything they don't like paganism,
right,
or witchcraft or Satanism.
Yes, exactly. It all goes back to that, unfortunately.
Always. So the Arizona State Board of Education suspended the license of teacher Jesse Ruiz for 2 years, or Ruiz. Not really sure. It could be pronounced either way. I'm going to go with Ruiz. For 2 years. The former Mesa High School teacher had been investigated in 2023, October of 2023, I should specify, because that's kind of important to this, for dressing up as the devil and apparently saying "Hail Satan" multiple times during class. During the investigation, it was supposedly...
Oh my gosh, my hat. Anyway.
Okay. So, never a dull moment, folks.
No.
So for in 2023 of October, for dressing up as the devil and saying "Hail Satan," allegedly, multiple times during class. During the investigation, it was discovered that Ruiz counted off roll call with his middle finger and used profanity. Nathaniel Hamlet, a Christian student of his, was deeply offended by it. Though all of the other students apparently found it funny, he did not, and reported it to his father, Chris Hamlet. He stated that, he's a Christian, and as a believer in God, it just didn't sit right with him, and it really he didn't know why, but it really icked him and pissed him off. So his father, Chris Hamlet, called and filed a complaint, and Ruiz was escorted out of the building. So this is in 2023.
Okay.
So that, though, is not the reason his license has now been suspended for 2 years.
Okay.
What was discovered is that while Ruiz was a teacher at Skyline High School, which is before he was at Mesa, he wrote several inappropriate yearbook messages to students, including "Thanks for the free canes, hey hey, gay sex, ... LOL, and I'm going to miss the fuck out of you, ... In one female student's yearbook, he wrote multiple messages, including "You should have run away from home, or we should have kidnapped you.
Oh my god.
I think about you every day, and especially when I found a new ... or some new eye candy on Instagram, wink face." His attorney contends that in regards to the day where he was dressed as the devil, it was Halloween Spirit Week, and the theme for that day was dynamic duos, and the teacher next door to his was dressed as an angel. And he never addressed one way or another about the comment about the "Hail Satan." As for what happened at Skyline, when he was removed from Skyline, he was suspended.
Yeah.
But that found that there was no sexual misconduct found in regards to the yearbook by the Skyline investigation. And his teaching license was reinstated. He just wasn't allowed to go back to work at Skyline. Now, in this 2-year suspension, he will be required to complete a professional boundaries course. So the reason why I have this in here, because, I don't know his affiliation.
Right.
I'm, assuming, honestly, he got the Hail Satan thing from either South Park or Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Right.
Because that was a thing, especially back then, while it was still on the air, it was always "Hail Satan," and passing the gifts and the gifts and everything.
Yeah, I've not even seen the show so far, but I have come across that gif on many an occasion.
Right, exactly. And, I could tell from the video of it that he's young.
Yeah.
He was a young teacher. So he's just a fucking idiot.
Right.
A dude bro idiot. Too young to be teaching high school students.
Clearly.
I think, honestly, when they're younger teachers, starting out, they should be with younger kids because they're more inclined to be on their best behavior if they're having to work with, kindergartners.
Right.
He was too busy trying to be their friend.
Exactly.
I honestly think that so I think the boundaries thing is great.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that the kid I'm offended that he was dressed up as the devil and all that is all Christian bullshit.
Right.
I had a feeling as soon as I saw that, I was like, October 2020? I was like, so let me guess, it was like a Halloween dress-up thing? Sure enough, yes, it was.
Right.
But this type of shit will be weaponized against us.
Exactly.
It will be weaponized against witches, pagans, heathens, Satanists, like...
Absolutely.
And it's just kind of like, okay, like, we need... So it's more about you guys being aware that this happened, because you need to be vigilant to the idea and keep this in mind that this could... Depending on where you live, your interactions with the people around you, maybe you live in like Pickens, South Carolina, and you deal with the Stillwater Church, and so just keep in mind that this incident could be used because this was literally just a few days ago that this was finally sentenced, even though this happened in 2023.
Right.
The sentence of suspension and this discovery about these inappropriate yearbook messages and stuff just became public, and so it's something very new in the headline. So even though it happened in 2023, don't be surprised if it gets weaponized now.
Right.
If you've had it kind of thrown at you or referenced, or why, or like you shouldn't teach kids because of this stuff, or because they can obviously be weaponized as indoctrination, even though I'm sure this guy is like not pagan, isn't a Satanist, like,
no, I'm
probably
sure
is like
not.
Christian or just agnostic,
right.
like most Americans are, where they believe in something but they don't go to church regularly,
right.
and like I am sure like he's just an idiot dude,
right.
like not making excuses, but like this feels more, if investigations actually didn't really turn up anything, this is just idiot dude behavior from someone who's I think like 28 years old.
Right.
Like he's just still figuring his shit out. Like we all know, for those of us 30 and over, it's not until you hit like 30 that you really kind of straighten the fuck out. 27 through 28, especially 29, is like the chaos years of like you're no longer the youngest one at the bar, but you're not the oldest, and like it's like you're in that place of just like you don't feel old enough, and yet you feel like you should be old enough.
Yeah.
And if you don't have certain things accomplished by that age, then you feel like you have failed as an adult.
Exactly.
Like there's a lot going on there. And I had my ex, years and years and years ago, 20 years ago now, plus years, he was a teacher. Yeah. And right out of the gate, he was given high school.
Oh my
and
gosh.
He was like 26, 27 years old. And it just did not work, because you're too intimidated by them, because they're too close to your age.
Exactly.
You're too intimidated by them to stand up to them, to punish them, to do whatever. So you instead do whatever you can to talk like them, to bond with them, to establish things, and you're forgetting that, like, yes, there is that sense of like this guy or girl isn't much older than me, but they also, the plurality of that, the duality of that, is they also hold at the same time. If you do something like that, it can very quickly cross the line, because they're also like, you're still, in their mind, you're their teacher.
Exactly.
So it's a tricky fucking situation, and young people should not be given high school students right out the gate. It just doesn't work.
All right. So next up, we have a story out of Plumstead Township, New Jersey. So the New Jersey chapter of the Satanic Temple has disbanded after a rift between members and leadership. Members cited authoritarian behavior from the co-founder, Lucien Greaves.
Oh, Lucien.
Such as like kicking people out over his ego. Also, can I just say, Lucien Greaves, what a stereotypically goth name.
Oh, I know.
Anywho, so he was apparently on a power trip.
Yeah, not the first time he's been accused of that either.
Right. So clearly, given that it's not the first time, several members of the congregation basically said, we're not going to deal with this anymore. And they have left the Satanic Church, rebranded under their own church that they're now creating, called alternately the New Jersey Satanists and Garden State Satanists.
Cute.
Yes. So they are currently in process of establishing their own legal structure as a church, and kind of getting themselves all set up following their break with the bigger one.
Yes. Sabu.
Yes. And honestly, I say good for them, because no one should have to stay in a religious environment where they feel spoken down to like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, this is not the first time that a complaint has been put against him.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a thing going on for a while, where many branches have formed that have broken off from the Satanic Temple because
of his behavior.
This behavior. Yeah. It's a shame, because there are things about him that I respect and have always respected. And if you see like the documentary Hail Satan ? Which I think we will watch for Witchy Media Review at some point, and especially I think now in context of this will help shed light on whatever. It's my wand of marijuana.
Your marijuana?
My marijuana. My magic marijuana. So, yeah, I think that maybe this will be the wake-up call he needs.
Yeah.
Like, how many more people do you need to break away from your chapters?
Right.
Like, what is this worth? And my thing is like, you're reinforcing these negative stereotypes that, I'm sorry, it doesn't just affect Satanists. Like, it affects the entire occult, shadow, left-hand path, pagan community. Like, it makes it just, because obviously we know it's all different, and not one does not have one to do with the other.
Right.
But in their brain, in Christian brains, layperson or devotee, hardcore, whatever, any of the Abrahamics, etc., for them it's all the same thing. It's literally all the same thing.
Which is so silly, because here we are, faithful pagans, and yet we know that there are many different branches of Christianity that are all very different from each other.
Correct.
But they're not going to make that type of effort to educate themselves.
No, of course not. Of course not. That's not their jive.
No.
Turkey.
Certainly not.
That's not their jam, ma'am.
Nope.
In the historic Greek region of Hera, which was a major cult site for HEKA-TEA, in one of the smaller cities called Lagina, I'm not really sure, so apologies on the pronunciation. This was one of many HEKA-TEA temple and sacred cities and sites. They've excavated new treasures, so they've just uncovered the temple gate, or the city gates. They've uncovered an entire new galleria of shops. They've been able to find the actual processional path where the young maiden, the young virgin girl, would carry the city key through the city gate to the temple of HEKA-TEA in the middle of the city.
Cool.
And this entire area of Turkey, like I said, is, and throughout, all the way to England and etc. There are temples to HEKA-TEA, but in this region, this is kind of a central area where there's many outlying cities and bigger cities that were all dedicated to HEKA-TEA and had temples to HEKA-TEA. So they started this excavation of Lagina and the temple there, or Lagina. I'm not, again, my apologies, I couldn't really figure out the pronunciation. They started the excavation of this back in the fall of 2024. Is when this kicked off, and so this is now what they've uncovered since then, is all these wonderful new things. So I think that's amazing.
Oh, that is awesome.
And just a nice little fluff story.
Exactly. Sometimes it's good to have just those types of stories that make you feel uplifted as a witch, because there's so much out there in the news that just reminds you of how everything is on fire.
Yeah, and I just think it's just so cool that they continue to excavate all of these sites, and
that's amazing,
and are committed to restoring them as much as possible in a way that people, visitors, inquirists can learn.
Exactly.
And there's that whole thing of that 3D tour of the Parthenon, as it would have been, and they're doing that at Lagina, whatever. It's for HEKA-TEA and her city and her temple there.
Wow.
They're developing a 3D design mapping of what it would have looked like back then, so then you can experience it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So hopefully, woo woo.
Woo woo. I would love to visit that. That would be wonderful and amazing. Anyway.
So that's it for Witchcraft in the News. Next we have Astrology Mixology, which is also not very long. So June 10th, yesterday, Jupiter moved into Cancer, and it's going to stay put there until summer of 2026. This is the most emotional Cancer move we have seen in years. So expect a lot of cravings for safety, security, phone calls to loved ones to connect and feel safe, huddles of emo goo for the next year. Also, you should come to the realization today on the full moon, hopefully a lightning bolt will strike, and maybe we are the lightning bolt.
Maybe we are.
That you don't need to be so together, and it is okay to feel vulnerable. And Cancer is going to force you to do it. So you can either be as stoic as you possibly can try to be, or you can just give in to the feels and just deal with it.
Exactly.
June 11th, today, the full moon is in Sagittarius. And it lights like a fire doused in kerosene. It's hot and unbothered. Trust the fire that you feel, the energy, and trust the fire in yourself. Don't question the ways to make that next step that you are contemplating, feeling the itch to do. We've been talking a lot this year about how we're all really kind of being drawn to this idea of transitioning into new spots, new places, transformation. lean into it and trust. Don't just trust that someone will be there to catch you. Just leap into the flames. June 20th, the summer solstice, or Lita. This, of course, is all about fertility, abundance, transformation, and recharging yourself, recharging your magic, recharging your magical tools, your magical jewelry, your tarot decks, candles, all that shit. It's all about recharging all the things. June 21st, Cancer season is here. The emotional bleeding amplifies even more. Your memories, dreams, the cravings for fulfillment and real connections will continue to intensify. As we said at the beginning of 2025, this is a year of spiritual rejuvenation and deeper connection. It's the year of the snake. It's very chthonic. It's very witchy. It's very of the earth, of the times. June 25th, the new moon is in Cancer, ushering in the call of ancestral spirits to further connect with the deeper truth of who you are, what kind of witch you are, and the kind of witch that you strive to be, or magical practitioner, occultist, however you would like to describe yourself. Which direction you want to ride your broomstick towards through your life. So June 25th, this is the ushering in of all of that, figuring all of that out. Exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I do have to say, I'm actually kind of excited for this transit of Jupiter in Cancer, because obviously during this transit, I will be entering a time of fertility and growth in my own personal life.
Yes.
And I think that will be a wonderful boon. Obviously, Cancer being the sign of that family connection, maternal energy. That doesn't necessarily mean one gender or the other, but just that nurturing type
yes.
of energy.
Divine feminine energy.
Exactly.
Not feminine energy in like that biblical trad wifey like Christian way that's going on right now.
No. But yes, that time of the divine feminine. So I truly feel, and I did even before this transit is happening, but that extra presence of this transit happening at the same time, like, really just makes me feel like everything is in alignment for me to move forward on this journey. So I'm all about it.
I love that. I love that.
And actually my own midheaven sign, which if you guys don't know, you probably do, but if you don't, is the sign that was directly above your head when you were born. So my midheaven is in Cancer. So I think that will just make it something that is even more applicable to this transit, and I'm very excited.
Yes, I agree, and I believe in nothing but the best for this entire situation and journey that you're going down. All right. So I think that puts us at the whole reason we're out here on the farm right now, with the hens behind us in the barn and the magical apple tree and all of this, and a windmill you cannot see right now that is spinning wonderfully, weather vane, windmill, whatever. And that is the summer solstice, or Lisa. So obviously I feel like we know kind of the gist of summer solstice, especially in terms of, or midsummer, for one reason or another, or Lita if you follow the wheel of the year, particularly if you are Wiccan, or you just follow the wheel of the year to follow it, which again we do as well. Not all of it, but you know,
the major things,
the things that we feel the most connected to, we will still celebrate. And obviously this is historically a time, this is when, you know, it's the longest day of the year. It's a transitional period, liminal period. This is when the fae emerge and have their dances and their revelry and their ball. This is some of the best time to see spirits, to see sprites and fae. This is all about abundance and fertility, and fire festivals, another fire festival.
We do love our fire festivals, don't we?
We do, and fire is the symbol of the summer solstice. It is, it's a celebration of the sun, the height of summer. It's kind of like how we know Imbolg is actually that first breath of spring, and that the vernal equinox is actually the height of spring. This is the same situation where the Beltane is the first breath of summer, and summer solstice, Lita, whatever, midsummer is actually the pinnacle, the height of summer. So, yeah, we could have talked about that.
Yes.
But
it's so commonly discussed. And we do like to delve in to topics that aren't necessarily always so widely known.
Right, and to help get to know us more, obviously, because we want to share ourselves with you.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
Our witchy journeys.
Our witchy journeys. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the torch on to Evanne.
To me. All right. Well, since it is June, and if you have not followed along for the last few episodes, we sometimes talk about our patron deities.
Sometimes.
A little bit. So now, of course, you are a HEKA-TEA witch.
Yes.
However, I am a Herian witch.
Yes.
And that does not mean that I'm hairy, although that's also true. I do have a lot of hair. But what that means is that I worship and follow Hera, aka Juno. And since it is June, I wanted to plan some time to talk about her in both of her Roman and Greek incarnations, because I exalt her in both.
Yes.
And since it is her season, I just wanted to give you guys a little more in-depth knowledge about her. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into the mythology of it all because we would be here all day, but mostly just some kind of general information. Okay. So the most kind of basic thing that I can give is sort of her dominions to get started with. So she reigned over marriage, childbirth, fertility, family harmony, as well as the air. She is a sky goddess. The air and the sky, especially the winds, as well as the clouds, the rain of the storms, as well. And this is one that is a little bit lesser known, but no less important. The constellations as well. Now, as a sky goddess, her most sacred color is blue, and that is relative to the color of the sky at all times during the day. So, of course, you have that bright, vivid blue during the day, and then that darker midnight blue at night. So that is why that's why her color is blue. She has several different colors as well that she is associated with, but there was one other one that I did want to briefly get into, and that is pink. And that is the color of her protection in childbirth. Which I think is very interesting, like as a goddess that reigns over pregnancy and childbirth, all of that stuff, and that those are very focal colors for her. I think it's interesting that to this day, pink and blue have remained colors associated with babies. I
agree. Yeah. Well, that would make sense because it was all about protecting and nurturing. So you would dress the babies in the colors, her colors, so that clearly is something that carried over through the eons.
Which I just think that is so cool. I love when you can really see the traces of how things have evolved with time.
Yeah.
And especially when it relates back to such ancient deities.
Yeah.
I really love that.
And what's also interesting is pink was for boys, blue was for girls.
Yes.
And like, you'd almost think like, why not, instead of bemoaning gender reveal parties, I mean, obviously the waste of like smoke and all that shit, but just like the bemoaning of them in general, like, well, why not just subvert it by returning it back to its original roots, where pink is for a boy, blue is for a girl, and purple is for if you are like, either we don't want to know the gender, or you're like, we're not going to acknowledge the gender until they tell us what it is, then do purple in the interior. Like, I just think there's a way that like you can still subvert things and like do things whatever and still like allow yourself to just enjoy it and still allow yourself to have fun. And especially if you can associate it, if you're pagan, and you can return it on top of that to not just to that original pink was for boys, blue for girls, but you return it to its different aspects of Hera's protection or fertility that you would use those colors for, and dress your child or use those colors for that purpose, which is what I would do as a witch. That's what I would do.
Yes, and in fact, I mean, that's why you see me wearing this blue dress today, because I have gotten really into dressing for Hera because I am such a strong devotee of her. I want to have, like, when I am getting dressed in the morning, I want to do so in a way that's mindful as her disciple. You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of thing that I really feel like she appreciates. Beauty and fashion and all of those things. Like I feel her with me when I dress for her. So I'm gonna keep doing it.
I love that.
So moving on, her sacred number is 8, which I'm bringing up because although Hera and Juno are the same deity, they do have certain differences between the Greek and Roman side.
Right.
And Juno actually has a different number, so I'm going to get into that later. So that is the reason that I'm bringing up Hera's as well. As far as elements, as I'm sure that you could guess by the fact that she is a sky goddess, her element is air.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of her Orphic hymns, one translation of that hymn refers to her as the mother of storms and nurse of winds, which I love. She definitely visits me through the winds, I would say. She is definitely, for that reason, the most exalted during times of the year that are like air astrological signs.
Yeah.
So with Hera, her most sacred season of the year is Aquarius season, which I love because I'm an Aquarius moon and Mars. So, hey girl, I know you picked it for me.
Right.
But the reason for that is a little bit interesting as well. And we did get into this in our Valentine's Day episode a little bit, but just in case you were not there or if you would like a recap, the reason for that is that the Greek month of Gamaliel was the first month of the Greek year. On the 27th day of Gamaliel, there was a festival called HEKA-TEA, which is named after one of her epithets. That epithet relates to her being the goddess of marriage. So that festival was obviously for that same purpose, to honor her in that aspect. And the reason that it would take place on the 27th of Gamaliel was because, according to legend, that was the date of her marriage to Zeus. So of course, as that evolved over the centuries and eons, that became the festival of her and her aspect of marriage, which I think is cool. So next up, I'm going to kind of talk about like where her cults were located and just different things relating to that. So she had, of course, as you can imagine, kind of a far-reaching influence across Greece.
Right.
She had cults in the northeastern Peloponnese, especially Argolis, several Arcadian cities, the islands of Samos, Rhodes, and Crete. The island Euboea was considered to be her most holy place. The modern spelling of which is Evia.
Evie,
which
yeah.
I think is cool because it's similar to my name.
Yes.
So that is the second largest Greek island after Crete, as well as the sixth largest in the Mediterranean.
Nice.
And that was considered to be kind of her most sacred location. At her temple in Samos around 800 BCE, she was the first deity to receive an enclosed temple. Before that, they were all kind of like open to the sky. So that was the first occasion when that had happened. So on the mainland, she was commonly worshipped as Hera Argia, which refers to her status in Argos. At her temple between Argos and Mycenae, she says in Book 4 of the Iliad, the three cities I love best are Argos, Sparta, and Mycenae of the broad streets. Now, in Greece, certainly, her cult was very much connected with sacred sexuality. Typically, when you would walk into her temples, like there would be a bed in the center of the temple. And here's where it gets a little bit spicy. So she had this temple called the Heraion at Argos. And at that temple, you would walk in past where the bed was, and on the other side of that, there was an image that would be lit by votive candles, like a big ass painting of her going down on Zeus.
Wow.
Yes, like
naughty.
Naughty.
It's like First Penthouse. It's
exactly.
like the real First Penthouse magazine.
Exactly. Like, and we're talking like a close up, like her mouth, like on his
junk.
Yeah. And
smoking that pole.
Smoking that pole.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is if you go back at the other deities, like not even Aphrodite allowed such explicit imagery in her temples.
Yeah,
like,
she liked things classy.
Yeah.
Sexy, but classy.
Yeah. Whereas Hera, she did not
unbridled.
and has never given a single fuck.
She's unbridled.
Exactly.
Unbridled
She's like that's
primal.
She's like, that's right. Worship me, smoking my husband's pole.
Which I respect because
I love it.
As someone who like writes sex scenes, graphic sex scenes, and as someone who my first publishing was writing erotica.
Yes.
And you know, that was even before my first novel came out. Like at 19, 20 years old, the thing I first started my first publishing credits was gay erotica. I mean, you know, so like I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Me too. Absolutely.
I think if it means something, if it's transgressive, if it's pushing something and it has a purpose, whether sacred or the bridge of the sacred and the profane, which is where again, liminal space, that's where I feel like you have that intersect. But that's where I've always seen it, where it's like, if I'm writing a graphic sex scene, it's because it's doing something for the character, for the story, for the reader, that they need to experience with the character as the character is experiencing it, and everything that goes with it in a visceral way. I think it's very visceral. I think it's something that should be carnalized if it's, as long as it has a purpose.
Exactly.
Good for you, Hera. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
We love it. We love to see it. I wish I could go into that temple and worship you in your bed right now.
Oh, lordy. It's not that kind of show.
But it's actually interesting because when I set up my altar to Hera that I have in my home right now, I did choose the bedroom.
You did?
I did. And I chose that because I just really felt like that's where she wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to learn that her temples did involve the bedroom.
Yeah.
You know, I really enjoy that. I love that. And I'm glad that I chose a place to build her home within my home where she would feel the most exalted, you know?
Yes.
I just love that. So speaking of her temple that was between Argos and Mycenae, that brings me to kind of the main topic of the Hera side of things,
yes.
Which is also involving this time of year.
Yes.
So that was where something called the Herea would be observed. That was also called the Heraean Games.
Yes.
This was a festival where young girls would compete in a foot race as a rite of passage. So typically they would be unmarried women. They would be, you know, coming into their teens. So they would do this kind of to come into their adulthood.
Right.
And their time as women, not girls.
It's their quinceañera.
Yes, exactly.
Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm. So this would be held every 4 years. It took place directly after the male Olympics. It was organized by 16 women, of course, going back to her sacred number again. She loves those multiples of 8. So these 16 women would wave a peplos for Hera and arranged choral dances for the festival. It began, this wind. She knows we're talking about her.
Yes.
She's like, keep going. I will, girl, I will. So this celebration began around 700 BCE. Competitors would wear a short chiton.
And the wind's coming from the east.
Exactly.
So it is from her. Look at that. Obviously, I say that because other deities, including HEKA-TEA, have dominion over winds and storms.
Oh, yes.
But there's always a directional.
Exactly.
So keep that note. Notate where the wind is coming from, and it'll kind of give you an idea of who it's possibly from.
Exactly.
Maybe it's your deity sending you a message, a whisper in the wind.
Exactly. So competitors for Hera would wear a short chiton that would expose their right shoulder and breast.
Yes.
And they would also run with their hair loose.
Yes.
She was all about like loose hair, flowing outfits, things like that. The winners would be awarded a crown of olive leaves and a cow, which would be sacrificed to Hera. They would also dedicate statues at her temple, and they would inscribe their names and the physical feats that they had performed in her honor on those statuaries. So the way the festival would be set up was the first race was Stadion, and that was a 177-meter sprint on the racetrack in the stadium. Next would be the Diolos. That was 2 consecutive sprints, so about 354 meters. Third was the Hippios, which corresponds to one of her epithets, which was Hera Hippia, which referred to of the horses. So, you know, she just wants you to be racing like a horse.
Right.
So that would be 4 consecutive races amounting to about 708 meters. And finally, the 4th one would finish with the Dolikos, which was an endurance race of about 18 to 24 laps around the stadium, which amounted to roughly 3 miles, which is the same distance as a modern day 5K.
Ah, okay. I see where this is going.
Yes. So although at the ripe old age of 35 years old, I have been a woman for quite some time now. I am also at a place of transition and new beginnings in my life, with entering into this new chapter of my journey towards motherhood. And of course being always devoted to Hera, but it's really deepened over this past year. So I really do see this time as being sort of an initiation into her service. And I love that. So what I decided to do was I decided to sign up for a 5K that I was going to run for her. I would train for that, you know, different levels of increasing endurance. Because honestly, when I started this journey of running a 5K for her, I had never really been a runner at all. I had not ever been, it was never something I was good at, but knowing that that the Hera was specifically involving running for her, I really wanted to do it. And so since probably February, I've been working on training for this. I just did it about a month ago on May 17th. The timing was, I will say, was a little off from when the celebration would happen historically.
Right, which is June.
Yes, it would typically, oddly enough, it's like right at this time that we are at right now.
Right.
It was typically late June through early July. So like in my brain, I equate that as about June 20th to July 10th.
Yeah.
Which is oddly enough falling on the same day this year as the solstice.
Oh, yes.
So that was pretty cool. But I did decide to do it a little bit early just because I couldn't find a race that really spoke to me in her name that was taking place around that time. So I picked this one because it was one where it was through the city parks of Tacoma where we live, and it took you into the trails behind this park, and it goes down into the forest and by the river.
Yeah.
And for me, that was just something that really spoke to me of her.
Yes.
So that's what I did. Excuse me. We will insert some pictures from my race day.
We got a shot. Take a look at you in your. You replicated the outfit.
I did.
So we have a couple of pictures of that really quick.
Yes. So I chose like one shoulder workout top and some cropped leggings to represent the short chiton and the exposures. Although, of course, obviously, I couldn't be completely with my tit out in the middle of a 5K.
But the outfit looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
So it's a great picture.
I loved the outfit. It was great. And yeah, I guess that just really goes back to the fact that, like, as witches, we really can do a solitary initiation when we are really being called by them.
Right, and I want to talk more about that. Is like, I like that you, and obviously when we get to mine about HEKA-TEA in August, I'll discuss mine more in depth as well. But the idea when you do self-initiation for one reason or another, maybe you don't live in a place where there's a pagan community or a coven or anything you can access, or any type of temple that you can go to. And I mean, honestly, as pagans, as heathens, we don't really have that to begin with anyways, unless you follow certain paths that still are alive and kicking and do continue that shit. So there is this idea of self-initiation, and I want to say it was Scott Cunningham's The Solitary Witch, or Solitary Wicca, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
That came out in like the late 80s, early 90s. And he had like a self-initiation ritual for the Wiccan path, for being Wiccan and the traditional Wiccan ceremonial path of it. The Witch's Bible, or the Witch's Handbook, excuse me, that has like a self-initiation ritual in it. That's the big one, that's black and white cover on it. But I think, I'm curious, what drove you to or what set in you to be like, I want to actually do an initiation ritual devotion that, like, instead of just, a lot of people they put up their altars, which is all good and fine. However, you form that bond. But what was it that called to you to be like, I'm going to do an initiation ritual and I'm going to make sure that it is as authentic to these original things as possible? Like, what called that on for you?
Well, I guess it was kind of a combination of factors, really. Like, I had been kind of on a fitness journey prior to when I really called to her in a new way. And so looking back, I truly believe that that was her beginning to call to me, but I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah.
So I started with with going on treadmill workouts, and I would just do power walks, but I was always aiming to get myself to the point where I could run, because it was just never something I had been able to do before, and it was my goal, you know? Now, after this had been continuing for, a couple months, I did start to feel a call from her to kind of really return to her service in a deeper way than I was before.
Yeah.
Which I did. I certainly listened to what I was hearing from her. As I've talked about a little bit on our show before, she was the first deity who ever reached out and called to me as a little child.
Yeah.
She's always been a very deep part of my life, but this initiation was kind of was really delving into her service in a much deeper way than it had been before.
Yeah.
So given that I heard that call, I answered it. I was setting up her altar, kind of getting more and more into her service, like learning as much about her as I could to be the best Herian that I could be.
Right.
And oddly enough, kind of where this all really came to a head, and I was kind of like, during all of this time, I was like building up my stamina as a runner, but I didn't really connect that the two were related.
Right.
But I decided a few months back to do a post on my Instagram about her sacred seasons of the year, because I wanted to learn about these things for my own enrichment.
Yeah.
I also wanted to share her messages with whosoever may come upon them.
Right.
And so yeah, it all came kind of out of me desiring to like to know more about her, to have like a better understanding of how to worship her.
Yes.
So I decided to do this whole project of sharing her sacred seasons. And I knew about Hera before, but I didn't know as much about it as after I researched it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking through, I'm pulling up articles, and I found that all of the events of Hera were related to running, and at that point, that's when I connected the dots of this whole thing that had been happening in my life, and I realized it was not just me, like that was always a part of the call from her.
Yeah.
So at that point, I thought, oh, I should do a 5K for her.
Love it.
Because of course, I also knew I was going to be at this portion in the summer of taking a new step along my fertility journey, which is something obviously that I talk to her a lot about. So I was like, you know what, since I'm at this place of A, deepening my connection with her, but B, I'm at this stage of like a new shift and a new beginning and entering into a new phase in my own life, like why don't I run my own little personal Hera for her as an act of initiation and rite of passage for myself.
Right.
And I had the time of my life. I absolutely loved it. I'm so glad that I did it. I actually might do it again, but I'm definitely going to keep running for her on my own. But I may try and get one more 5K for her before the end of the summer.
What was the experience like? Did you have any transcendental, spiritual, like, connection moment while running? Did you experience any type of, through the initiation process, did you have any, I guess?
I think that I had several, just given that, like, one of the first things she asked me to do when I rededicated myself to her was to make her a playlist and to dance to that in front of the altar and listen to that and open my mind to her. So I listen to that always when I am running. So it's kind of, especially if I'm doing so outside. Hi, Birdie!
Yes, birdies.
Yes. So especially if I'm doing so outside and I am seeing the colors of the earth, feeling the wind, and then hearing her music as well. Like it's so easy to be taken over by her.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really felt was interesting on the actual 5K run was it was so much easier to keep going than it ever had been before.
That's cool.
And I really I felt like she was with me on the run and that she was guiding me.
Imbuing you. Mm-hmm. Well, it's like drawing down the moon or being ridden, like in the Afro diaspora tradition, and they would call it being ridden. It would be the horse.
Exactly.
For the Loa, for the Orisha, for the gods. Or we call it, being, drawing down the moon, possession, invocation, whatever. You're taking in a part of them into you. They're imbuing you. It's no longer just you. They're filling you with a piece of themselves, no matter how ephemeral, no matter how temporary, that it lasts. It's enough to empower you and keep you going. I just think that's so cool, and I'm so proud of the fact that you fucking did that.
I know. I'm proud of myself, too.
I just think that's so awesome.
I really do, too. So without further ado, since it is June, let me get into her Juno side.
Yes,
and the Romans. So just kind of as a little like segue, kind of bridge between the two sides, let me get into kind of the few differences that are between Hera and Juno. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, they are aspects of the same deity.
Right.
The mythology and the stories surrounding them, they're the same stories.
Correct.
With differences a little bit, like, but they are the same deity. Yeah. But the main differences going back to the sacred number part as well on the first one. So while Hera's is 8, Juno's is 1.
Okay.
And that comes from one interpretation of her name. It shares the root uni, which can mean 1. And another interpretation of that same word in the Etruscan definition, uni meant she who gives.
Okay.
Which I love. I think that for a lot of people, especially today, being so separated from these events, people can focus on her more vengeful qualities.
Yeah.
And for me, yes, that is a part of her, but it is not the greatest part.
Yeah.
The center of the core of who she is as a deity is about benevolence and abundance.
Yeah.
And that's what I love in this definition, because I just really feel like that speaks to that greater part of her nature.
Yeah.
I also think that if you are judging a deity based on how they responded to acts of betrayal, then that says more about you than it does about them.
Sorry, repeat that. If you what?
I said if you are judging a deity not on the whole of themselves, but based on how they responded to acts of betrayal that were done against them, then that says more about you than it does them.
Well, I don't know about that, because I will say, Hera, Juno, like, there is a punish the victim instead of the perpetrator thing going on there. Like,
in some situations.
I mean, like the name of the king and queen taking Zeus and Hera's name, that was justified.
For
But
sure.
then you have things like Medusa. Like, that was not justified.
Which
like,
I think that's a bigger conversation that we really don't have time to get
correct.
into today.
I agree, but it's not justified. So I just think that, like, there is a history with her punishing the victim and not the perpetrator, which I understand because the perpetrator was Zeus or
right.
Jupiter. I get. But you have to embrace, like, just like HEKA-TEA's aspects that are negative that I'm not a huge fan of.
Right.
Like, there are, like,
I do
we have
embrace
those
all
situations.
of those things, but
So,
I'm never gonna judge her as a deity on the basis
no, not
of those
based
things.
on those solely. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I completely agree. You should not base solely on those things, but you do have to take those things. It's not wrong to also use those, have those in mind when you're considering how you approach that deity.
Of course.
And that's what I mean is more about how you approach that deity. I think you need to take the whole of the deity into consideration before doing so you can approach them safely and properly.
I agree. I think you need to acknowledge all parts and aspects of them. But that being said, I'm never going to look at her and see darkness. Like,
no, of course not. No.
I see benevolence in her.
Sure.
In fact, like a prime example is her hymn, which yes does acknowledge the fearsome power that she has, that she will use when the occasion calls for it. But there are more references in her hymn to her benevolent nature and her caring about her children, blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera. And when I hear those words or say those words, which I do often use for him in her worship, it truly just fills me with such an overwhelming peace, and that's what I feel from her as well.
Right.
So I think that that's something that not a lot of people have an understanding about or think about because they just see the vengeance.
Well, and pop culture has a lot to do, from Xena to Hercules to Disney's Hercules to every Clash of the Titans, like all those things. Whenever you see her and she's referenced, she's only shown in one way.
Exactly. And I think it's important to acknowledge and embrace all aspects.
Right.
You know. But anyways,
that's why you come to the show, folks.
Exactly.
Lively debate. Crossfire.
Pew. So next, that was an interesting thing about her, was that Juno in the Roman side was one of the Capitoline triad, which was the triad of capital gods. It was her, Jupiter, and Minerva, and they were kind of the three main gods of Rome. Oh my gosh. So Juno, on the Roman side, she had also a more kind of political and civic and martial aspect to her than Hera did. Yeah. So
that makes sense.
You know, like if we were describing her like from our state in America, we would call her like a State of the Union goddess. You know, so there was a lot more of that to Juno than there was on Hera's side. So that's one of, I think, the main differences between them. Interestingly enough, in Roman culture, there was a belief that men had protector spirits called the genius, while women had the same protector spirits, but those were called the Juno.
Oh, okay.
And these spirits appeared as serpents.
Okay.
And both Hera and Juno had very strong and spiritual associations with the serpent.
Yes.
So I thought that was very interesting. I'm wearing a gold serpent bracelet for her that I always wear. So I thought that was a very interesting fact about her as well. On Hera's side, her Feast of Libation takes place during the month of January, which kind of goes back to her sacred season being Aquarius, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But there is a connection to Juno in that as well, which I think is interesting. So January is, of course, named for the god Janus.
Yes.
Both Juno and Janus were deities of beginnings and transitions. Janus was also sometimes referred to as Euonius, sharing the same root as Juno.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty cool. So the first day of each month, because of Juno's sacred number being 1, was very sacred to her, as was the entire month of June. Starting with her festival of Juno Moneta, which was also named for an epithet of hers. Of course, we, by our modern turn of phrase, we would think money, because it's Moneta, but it's not actually anything to do with money at all. Juno Moneta referred to Juno the advisor, so this would just be like a time to honor her for her guidance. So there would be a celebration on the 1st of June honoring her in that aspect, which would then kick off her entire month of June. Okay, so another epithet of her was Juno Lucina, which referred to the Lightbringer. This was specifically, as you can probably guess, related to childbirth and fertility. Could be assistance in childbirth, but could also be invoked in times of help for difficulty in conceiving. On the Roman side of the mythos, there was kind of a more common belief that Juno had conceived her son Mars without assistance from a dude. So Flora had enchanted a flower for her. It was one of her lilies, which is a sacred flower for her. She touched that to her breast, and that's how she became pregnant with Mars.
Who I have a name for. Marcus.
And I am an Aries, which is named for Mars, aka Aries.
And I have an Aries moon.
So the epithet that came from that was Juno Martialis, which refers to her as being the Virgin Mother of Mars. In fact, the design of the fleur-de-lis and its ties to the Virgin Mary has roots in this myth, which I think is interesting. This was one of several myths involving Hera or Juno and procreating solo, which I, obviously, as someone that is about to be embarking on a solo parenthood journey, I'm like, I feel it. I feel it, girl. But I just think it's interesting because you do see like differences in the myths, and it's kind of cool to see that there is like that side to things as well, you know.
Right.
So in that vein, there was a celebration that dealt specifically with being a mother and maternal things. It was called Matronalia. It took place on March 1st, which in the Roman era was New Year's Day. They would wear laurel garlands, hang those on the houses of her devotees all throughout the year, and those garlands would be replaced during this time. It was kind of regarded as a feminine counterpart to Saturnalia. So it had a lot of the same traditions in common. For instance, the exchanging of gifts and the feasts for slaves, those were things that would happen on Matronalia as well. Because most Romans would marry during her sacred month of June, they would call upon Juno Lucina to help with conception in hopes that they would have a baby that was arriving by Matronalia.
I see,
which coincided with the birth of Mars in mythology. So it was observed mainly by aristocratic women. You didn't need to be a mother to participate, but they would wear loose clothing and hair and put flowers in them for her. They would make offerings to Juno Lucina at her temples. And 1 week later, on March 7th, was Junonalia, which was a time to just worship her with abandon. There would be a large party, fires, wine, and dancing, all of that fun stuff. So as I was researching this for the show, as I'm wrapping up this topic, I found it interesting, like the differences between like Juno and Hera's kind of sacred seasons of the year. So Hera's would be January, February, April, May, June, July, and August. While Juno's were in February, March, June, July, September, October, and December. So I just thought that this was interesting because between the two aspects of her, the dates kind of complement each other to form a complete year of worship for the Herians like myself.
That's really cool.
And that's all I had to really say about that.
Do you plan on following that and doing all of them to have a year of Hera celebration?
I do, actually.
In all her aspects?
It's interesting because like on the Hera side, it's kind of, and what I actually really loved about it when I was initially learning this was that her seasons were kind of follow the times of the year where the earth is being pulled out of darkness into its most bright shining light. And that's really kind of how I feel that she is with her devotees. And it's just interesting that it kind of follows like what her seasons do with the earth, which I love. But then like learning more about Juno and her worship and finding that she has, it's almost like the pieces of the puzzle that are missing on the Greek side are observed in the Roman side. And it's just, it makes everything just kind of fit together in a more complete way. And I absolutely will observe both.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, that was all that I really had to say about Hera and Juno, but I hope that you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about her and as well about me and my witchy practice.
Yes, thank you for all of that and sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And we will be back with a tour of this farm, say hi to the chickens.
Yes.
And yeah, stay tuned. you guys enjoyed that tour of the stead.
Yes.
Hope you found it very inspirational.
Exactly. As inspirational as we do.
Yeah, exactly. As you can see, we are now at the Fire Festival portion of Summer Solstice, or HEKA. This is a time where we now have invited fairies, the fae folks, to come out and dance with us, to grant us their blessings, and for the gods and goddesses of this time to be honored.
Yes.
With that being said, let's move on into Delicious Witch, where we are making Summer Red Gazpacho. This has like roasted tomatoes, peppers, red onion, all this delicious stuff, red stuff, pink stuff, and lobster tail, chopped dice deliciousness. Chilled, just perfect for the summertime. And seafood and produce. This is very significant for this time of year, especially with Juno, and celebrating the abundance of the harvest and of the abundance of all the rich things that, you know, now we find at like farm stands and farmers markets and in our produce sections, unless we unfortunately live in food deserts, which is then awful.
There's never a wrong time to celebrate her abundance.
No, never. So yeah, enjoy. All right, witches. So here we are, Delicious Witch, and obviously we want to do something for the season. Something for Summer Solstice or Juno Moneta. I can never get the last one right. I keep wanting to be like Juno Morta.
Just remember it this way. Bitch better have my Moneta.
Bitch better have my Moneta. I like it. So we're thinking of like abundance, agriculture, produce, the summer veggies, all things that this time celebrates. You know, it's like the first of our harvest celebrations, where we're celebrating the height of abundance of like summer's harvest, summer's give. So we thought gazpacho, but also what was sacred to Juno / Hera at this time. And it was a lot of produce. It was a lot of agriculture, but it was also seafood. There was seafood, and there was also cows, like calves, veal, to be more specific, which would have been good, but it's super expensive. So we settled on seafood by doing a gazpacho, and then the seafood is lobster. Well, lobster tails, but we'll get the lobster meat for the tails. Yes, cheaper than veal, so surprisingly. So we are going to just make this super easy. By the way, it's super easy, and you will need the following. All right, you will need 4 nice-sized lobster tails. You can also use shrimp or prawns if you're not a big fan of the lobster. Gonna need a bushel of green onions, just 1 bunch. Package of fresh dill. 2 orange bell peppers. 5 to 6 big red bell peppers. You're gonna need tomato paste, clove of garlic. 1 good-sized thick English cucumber. Those are great because they don't need to be seeded or anything. About 4 celery stalks that you're going to chop. You can use, I like the crema oaxaqueña, because it kind of makes me think of creme fraiche, but I prefer crema, for obvious reasons. There is, you're going to need a can of diced tomatoes, diced with garlic, oregano, and basil. Red curry paste, chipotle peppers, 5 tomatoes. I found 5 ripe on the vine. Some dried basil, dried thyme, dried rosemary, dried oregano, cayenne pepper, pasta sauce with Italian herbs, or just regular red pasta sauce. Like pasta sauce, yes, you'll see why in a minute. And then I have shrimp bouillon, but basically any seafood, stock, broth, whatever. Grape tomatoes, heirloom grape tomatoes, 1 red onion, and also, which I forgot to bring out here, but vegetable stock as well. Oh, and a thing of pico de gallo, 16 ounces. I just got this package of like the fresh party pico from my grocery store, but you do want to make sure it's 16 ounce. You do want to make sure it's the bigger one. And like I said, vegetable stock, which I will bring out in a second. And some crusty bread. This is from a Krena bakery. It's a Vulcan loaf, which we figure, you know, good for the whole produce, abundant, harvesty feel of this time of year. And then, yes, you did see the White Claw, because to quote Evanne, ain't no 3-fold law when you're drinking claw. And that was not a paid sponsorship. There we go. And vegetable bouillon base. So you're going to want your vegetable bouillon or stock, and also your seafood bouillon or stock, like over here. All right, so yeah, you're like, shit, that's a lot of stuff. There's a lot going on that counter. Yes, but the beauty of it is it's all gonna like shrink down. You're not gonna be doing a lot of like fine dicing or anything like that. It's literally just kind of taking the tops off things like tops, cutting things in half, and then you're just transferring them onto baking sheets, and it's all gonna roast and shrink down in size in the oven. So you wanna make sure your oven is preheated to, I have 365 degrees. So 365 degrees, and super easy to do all of this.
And what better way to honor Juno than by taking off the top and cutting something in half?
Exactly. So, first thing we're going to do, and as you can see, we're both just going to be chopping. You want to take care of your bell peppers. Again, this is really easy. So you take your whole bell pepper, just take the top off of it. You want to get that out, and then just stick your hand and rip the core out, like that. Just rip the core out, and you can easily get in there and take out the ribs. Now, the seeds are like, then the ribs are the hardest part of the pepper. These are bell peppers, so like, it doesn't really matter, like, if seeds are like, end up in the thing. It's not really, these seeds aren't going to make a difference. Oh, let's pop open the garbage bin.
Oh, yes.
We have a garbage bin over here, so I'm gonna throw things into the garbage bin. And then you're just gonna split this in half. And then you wanna just split it again down the middle. That's it. Put it on your bigger sheet pan. You don't even have to like evenly separate them, it doesn't matter. They're gonna shrink, they're going in a blender anyways. It doesn't matter. Kind of chop up the celery. I'm just going to take the ends off, both ends, because it has like the dirt nubs or whatever on it, so that's gross. And then just kind of coarsely chop them, almost like you're doing, you know, like celery sticks, and just put them on the other sheet pan, which is going to have our onions and our tomatoes.
Oh, onions always get me.
Always. Your suffering is my gain.
And then this is just going into like 3?
Like just kind of dice it into chunks, chop it up, dice it into chunks. You don't need to like make them super small or anything, just like. Just worry about minimizing how much space they take up. No, bigger than that, like literally like. Anyway, it's all going in a blender. Tomatoes and celery, cherry tomatoes.
All in there. Cut them in half.
Yes, half. So then you're going to cut your whole tomatoes, your big regular ones, you're just going to cut them in half. Don't use like beefsteak. I mean, honestly, you can use whatever tomato you like. But we're not going to put them on there yet. We have to season. We don't want to like smush them. So let's just get them cut in half. Prep stick it on. And then we want to get our green onion. Oh, and then do you want to, remember how just peel it, like just smash?
Yeah.
Because we can put in the whole point. So we want to do like, 1, 2, maybe like 4 cloves, 4 cloves, big size cloves. So we're gonna take our scallion or green onion, just like that, just kind of cutting it. We're gonna put it on with our tomatoes and our red onion and our celery. Then we're gonna take our olive oil, start drizzling. Just want to make sure you get enough to really kind of toss and coat all of this. You don't need to do like a super crazy toss. You just want to make sure your Italian herb seasoning mix, which either you put together yourself because you have to, because you don't have the pre-mixed bottle of it, or you have the pre-mixed bottle of it and you're just sprinkling it on. You obviously want it to adhere to all of your vegetables and fruits. Fun fact, of course, tomatoes and peppers are fruits, not vegetables. And again, peppers, especially bell peppers, have 3 times the vitamin C of an orange. So really good source. This is, again, really healthy. We try as witches, yeah, we're not vegetarian or vegan. This is clearly not vegetarian or vegan friendly with the lobster and the seafood stock, but I mean, you can obviously make it vegan, vegetarian by omitting those things. Everything else is. But this is obviously pescatarian friendly, so at least there's that.
He was a vegan lobster. It's fine.
Yes, exactly. So you just want to get a good sprinkling of your herbs onto each one. Pepper. For salt, I'm using pink Himalayan. Generously salt. Don't over salt though, obviously, because you don't want to do that to your fucking body.
No. Your insides will not thank you.
No.
Here's the pepper garlic.
Perfect. So you're going to throw 3 big cloves of garlic onto your peppers as well. So 4 big cloves on your celery, onion, scallion, and tomato mix. 3 big cloves of garlic on your sheet tray full of peppers. Pepper these as well.
Gotta pepper the peppers.
Always. Okay. And then get more of your Italian herb seasoning on to the peppers. Again, probably a tablespoon and a half, just a few generous, liberal to taste, but not over. You don't want it super woody or anything. And then let's just give these a nice coated. Now that that's done, we can put our tomatoes, our big ones, nestle them right in.
Both sides.
Just like this. Yeah, why not? Let's give some to the peppers.
Yeah.
All that extra juice for them. Again, it's going to look like a lot. It looks clearly like a lot.
Yes.
But it's all going to shrink down into a baking sheet as it bakes.
Right.
Alright, so 365 degrees.
1 degree for each day of the year.
Hot wrap, and you can just put them lengthwise next to each other, unless you have more than one oven or whatever your situation is, or you're cooler than I am. There. Alright, we're just going to let this hang out. Check them in 35 minutes, just kind of on your oven, see where they're at. Then in the meantime, do a little cleanup, get things out of the way, and then we will start on our kind of our soup base, which is also going to go into the blender with what we're roasting. Again. Okay, so once you've cleared your way, made some space, stuff's in the oven, it's time to make the soup base. And this is really, again, really fucking easy. It's just kind of tossing all this shit together. But this is where you're gonna get into your measurements and things like that. Because you don't want to overseason over anything, otherwise it can be a very hot situation versus intriguing summertime red flavors. So, your bigger sauce pot, it's just my biggest saucepan, whatever saucepan. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that on medium-high heat. So if you have a low 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 high situation, I have it on the 6. And then we're just gonna take our pico de gallo. So this is going to be used a couple of different ways. It is going into this situation that's going to be hot and caramelized, etc. But then we're also going to continue to take advantage of its fresh aspect later. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our measuring cup. People call this often a liquid measuring cup. I use it for dry shit too. We want to do a cup. Pack it down. Make sure it's a cup. Or if it's just a little over, it's fine. But you want to make sure it's basically at the line of a cup. Take our extra virgin olive oil or olive oil, vegetable oil, just a good clean oil. But because this has Mediterranean vibes, obviously we're going down the olive oil route. You want to get a couple good glugs of that in there, so 2 tablespoons. Obviously we're not braising, we don't want them soaking in oil, we want them to caramelize and get delicious. Put that in there. Get it all out. So obviously that pico de gallo has your basics. It's tomato, diced white onion, cilantro, some garlic, I believe, and jalapeno. You're not a fan of jalapeno, pick it out or leave the pico out, or just get diced tomatoes and diced onions and diced cilantro and put it all together.
Or you're just on the wrong fucking show.
Right, or you're just on the wrong fucking show. Just want to get that going in that oil. Now, I'm a big fan of layering flavors and components, so it's getting the first layer where you want it to be and then adding the next. Then it's just, versus a lot of times people just start throwing it all in and you don't want to do that. So it's going to look like this. So you can see just enough oil to get it coated and start sizzling and getting nice and good. And always remember that the most important thing with any type of caramelization, sauteing, etc. is patience. But also vigilance, because the minute you walk away, it'll be burnt and black as fuck. Now I can see and smell the caramelization is starting to now happen. Browning is just starting to now happen on the onion, so that's awesome. We're almost where we want them to be. Okay. Now, we're going to take our vegetable base. I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of vegetable base. Excuse me, I'm a liar. We're going to do 2 teaspoons. Well, a teaspoon and a half. Let's leave it a teaspoon and a half. If you have vegetable stock, like if you're using actual vegetable stock, you're not making a stock out of base, then you're going to do 2 cups, like your water, or your base, like you're going to use your container of stock, like your can. Just 1 full can. If you have like a can size vegetable stock, or like a carton, then half a carton, or well, the whole carton. You'll see when we get to the water measurements. That'll tell you. I'll be like, that is the water measurements, that is how much stock you need. So we're just going to toss that, make sure everything's coated in the base. If you're using a powdered vegetable bouillon cube, then you're going to want to use 2. And all this does is give it this like additional, like cooked for hours taste, the flavor. Okay. Can you get me 2 cups of water, please? So 2 cups water, so 2 cups vegetable stock. There you go. Here's number 1.
And 2.
Perfect. Get that all stir. Alright, so once you get it to where you want it, just like literally bring it to a boil and then reduce the heat. Let it simmer for 2 minutes. Then we're going to take our diced garlic right now. We're actually pour a little bit of that we put in. Pretty minimum carbs. Don't want to move any of that, so go ahead and get a little water. I just like to do it until I can get everything from the can. So, say about a third of the way, or whatever. Just toss it in, and then trash. Trash!
Trash!
And then we're going to do a teaspoon of tomato paste. If you can get the tomato paste tubes that reseal, do that. I just have a lot of tomato paste cans. So then, of course, you know, you're stuck with the whole what do you do with it, the rest of it. So gotta try to figure that out. Just get that all stirred up. We're just amplifying the flavor, and we're amplifying the red, because we want it to be red. Because when we steam that lobster down the shell, that meat's gonna have that red on it, you know? It's gonna be really beautiful. Okay. Now we're gonna take a can of tomato sauce, right here. Just kind of like your regular tomato sauce. Just put that right in. Again, we're gonna do our little sloshy slosh. Just like that. And honestly, use hot water. That way, like, when you add it in, it will immediately cool your entire thing. I should have done that first can drop. Make sure it's scalding your finger. I just go about like the edges with the water, and so that way it runs down and pours what's on the side down into it. And then once you go around and you've cleaned it all, then it'll be all in your water and you just stir it. So don't fill it all the way or anything. I mean, you can, but then that's way too much liquid. Again, it's a cheap tomato sauce with garlic or any herbs or anything, or just tomato sauce. Like, it's just helping you get that like slow cook for hours flavor. We really don't have time for that. It's gazpacho, and that's the thing is we're chilling it, so it's gonna be a cold soup. So like, or room temp soup, however you want to eat it. So I mean, traditionally cold. So you want it to be packed with flavor, like just compressed, intense, built flavor when you eat that. You don't want to be dull if it's cold and like it's just not super like packed with flavor. You're just like, oh shit, like this is boring. We're gonna get our red curry paste. I'm gonna do a teaspoon of that. I'm gonna rinse this off. Teaspoon of red curry paste. Nice, healthy, rounded teaspoon. But a teaspoon nonetheless. Make sure it doesn't have a teaspoon. And chipotle peppers and adobo. Now you really only need one of these.
They are very spicy.
Yes. If you start getting like juice spillage over, which I was, just stick another cookie sheet under it, push it further back in the oven, and then stick it under it, so that way it can drip into that, and that way you won't like burn in your oven, and then you have to clean it, and the whole fucking thing. Okay, so done that. We want to get in our seafood stock. This is Nours, caldo de camarón. You know how I feel about all of these Nours. All the bouillons. So this is a seafood or shrimp bouillon. But any seafood stock you have, whether you eat it, got it at a seafood shop, whatever. I'm going to do a tablespoon of that. Again, just a rounded, hefty, a liberal tablespoon. Because you do want to get that, like, steamy flavor. Oh, can you give me another cup of water, please?
Yes.
Hot water. Perfect. Thank you. Bring that back up to a boil. We're going to add in our Italian herb mix. We're actually going to add the rest of it. So about a tablespoon left. You should have about a tablespoon. Put in a tablespoon of Italian herb seasoning. And then to that, I'm going to do a quarter teaspoon of chili powder. Quarter teaspoon of smoked paprika. Quarter teaspoon of ground coriander, ground cilantro, just a little cayenne. If this bitch will open. And honestly, not even a full quarter teaspoon, like half of it. Okay. Again, with that vibrancy. Pinch of salt, just a pinch. I'm gonna let that hang out, simmer for just a couple of minutes. And then we're taking it off the heat, taking everything out, and just want everything to cool. So go ahead and pop your, after the roasting for 40-45 minutes, the tomatoes and peppers and stuff, go ahead and put them on boil. And you're gonna just boil them for under the boiler for like 5 minutes, just keep an eye on them. You just wanna start getting a little bit of a char on them and shrinking them now that they've cooked down. So when the timer goes off, this is cool, you set aside, it's still cooling, things aren't ready to pop in the blender yet. We're gonna go ahead and get our tomatoes and peppers out of the oven. So now you just wanna let everything cool. And there's nothing you can do until it's cool and you can like actually touch it, etc. So let it all cool, I'll show you what it looks like. This is what it all looks like. That's all of our tomatoes and our red onion and our green onion and our garlic. And then we've got our peppers and our tomatoes and garlic. And there it is. Again, there is our soup base. That's our liquid base that, you know, when you add things in a blender, you need a liquid base. So this is our liquid base. When we blend all of this, all these fresh veggies and roasted veggies together, we still have the cucumber, English cucumber, fresh cilantro, fresh dill, fresh celery. Okay, so once everything's cool, then you're like, all right, now begins the fun part. You need your blender right here. We have that NutriBullet again. Got that big guy right here. You're gonna do this in batches. We've done the whole batches thing before. Just gonna blend, add to the big bowl, etc. Little fun thing we're gonna add to all of this. Take our English cucumber, cut that in half. And skin on or not, it's up to you. You can leave the skin on. I'm going to leave the skin on. I think it's got flavor. I like the skin. So just give it a chop, get it chopped up. Next, we're going to take our celery. Start with 3 stalks. And then if you want to smash those. Remember, you can use stalks and the stalks and everything in cilantro that's got flavor. Most herb stalks have their own kind of distinct flavor, so with about a tablespoon of roughly or coarse chopped cilantro. We'll take these cloves. That's like red. So I just diced up 1 smaller clove with garlic. Put that in there. Next, we're going to get a tablespoon of our pico, and of course I took the fucking, no. That's alright. We'll use a teaspoon. Get lots of dill in there. Don't really need to worry about chopping it. Just get all those delicious fronds in there. Dill is really good with seafood, so that's kind of why we're throwing it in there. Plus, it's just delicious. Love dill. Onion, green onion or scallion. We're gonna use the white. Not all of the white, just save a little bit for garnish. I'm gonna use some of the green. 2 teaspoons in all. Just coarsely chopped again because it is just going to whiz up in the blender. Blend in batches and get it going. So, start with our wet base. Okay. And then spatula. Lid on. Give it a shake. Make it as smooth as possible. Okay. And basically, you're just going to repeat the process until it's all done. Once smooth and all blended up, it's going to look like this. Just really gorgeous, really vibrant. Just looks like summer. Tastes amazing. So now we're going to wrap that up with saran wrap, pop it in the fridge, let it cool. Alright, so now we're coming to the home stretch, the very end of things. We got our lobster tails. Obviously, you're just going to steam as many as you need. I have a 4-pack, perfect for how many I need. You're not going to trim the shell or anything ahead of time. You're actually, so you've got, I have this pan with a steaming basket. Honestly, you can just put a layer of water down, or honestly, you should be like, I like to actually usually use white wine when I'm doing lobster, like white wine butter, Old Bay, poach it. I forgot the white wine. Not a big deal. Got the other stuff. So we're just going to pop that basket in. And then get our water. You want to start with cold water. Probably won't need a full cup of water, but I have a cup of water here. Just going to fill the basin of your pan. You can obviously use your basket to measure. That's perfect. You just want to make sure the entire surface is coated with a layer of water, or stock or wine, whatever, but don't go about that. Get our Old Bay seasoning, perfect for seafood. I think we're all familiar with it by now. Just give a generous sprinkle all in that water. Perfect. Nice garlic clove, the 2 that we had reserved on the side. Just put that in with your water. It's been seasoned with Old Bay. Can you give me a butter knife? Yes. Second drawer. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Oh. If you don't have any lemon or lime juice, use a splash of vinegar and just put that, just a splash around in your water just to give that oomph of summer, that kind of tangy, acidic bite. And then we're going to take about a tablespoon of butter, use your little cut measure thing, and just kind of drop it in the water. Alright. Then we're going to put our steam basket on top. Obviously, it's going to sit a little raised because of your pieces of butter, but that's all going to melt down fairly quickly. Alright, so now you're just going to take your lobster tails, put them in the tray. All line up in a row right there. Then turn on your heat, medium high again, put your lid on, and you're just going to steam for like 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes. We'll start with 8, we'll check it in 8 minutes. So, ta-da, our timer went off. Check our lobster. You can see from here how radiantly beautiful and red they are. They're gorgeous, delicious, so excited.
Just as fiery as our little hearts.
Exactly. Oh, it's so pretty.
Oh no!
Oh, asbestos happens. Alright. Take it off the heat. Lay a thing down. And then lift your bias gate. Put it in the basket. So we're gonna put it in the basket. We're gonna take the basket out, set it on one of those pot handle things so it doesn't burn the top of the island. You can keep the broth. You don't really need to keep the broth. Kind of done its business. It's business. It's business.
But of course, if you just want to chug that bitch, that is your business.
Right. So we're just gonna let the lobster cool, because you want it to cool to the touch. Like, you want to be able to handle it. So we're gonna let it cool down a little bit more, so then it can go in the fridge and finish cooling. But obviously, if it's hot, you don't want to stick hot things into a cold fridge. Right. That's how diseases breed. So yeah, we'll be back with shelling and all that shit once the lobster is cold. Now we have cooled our lobster, so now ceviche, but then is what's going to top our gazpacho. So everything's getting used here. Nothing's going to waste. I mean, aside from probably the can of tomato paste and chipotle adobo. It's the curse that you'll find if you've never experienced that situation before. I feel like we all have with the tomato paste can,
That's
but
definitely true.
it's the same with the chipotle and adobo. Like, you haven't experienced this curse yet.
You will.
All right, so we're going to take kitchen scissors. I use regular, like, thick, like, construction, like, black handle scissors. You just, you know, the scissors, the durable scissors we all use. Like, we're just going to cut through the back of our lobster tails. You want to tuck it right up under the spine, the back of it, whatever. That's fine, I guess. Be careful, the shells are sharp as an asshole. All right, and then we're just going to peel it out. Gonna break it open. Get that shell open. Now there is the intestinal trap. Just like in shrimp, you don't want that. It's freaking gross. Let's see if we can open it. You just want to like get the meat separated off the shell. You got all the legs and things. It's creepy. Make sure you get it all. Alright, so then you're going to take your lobster meat and you're just going to chunk it up. There's 4 of us that will be eating this, so there's 3 of us, so I got 4 tails. You just kind of want to do a tail for everyone plus an extra to add up to the meat. You can obviously you can bring shrimp into this, prawns, scallops too, crab. Like, you can make it a seafood dance.
Exactly.
And you just want to coarse chop it because you do want the lobster meat in those delicious chunks. Perfect. I want to cheat people out on the lobster.
Oh no.
Look at that beautiful red shell meat. Go back into your bowl. Okay, now we're going to assemble our ceviche. Obviously, the lobster meat's been steamed already, so like it's not like going to cook in the acid really in the situation, but it's going to keep it tender, which you want, obviously. So first we're going to drizzle, remember that reserve, that liquid from your steam. So this is the water, Old Bay, chunks of butter, red wine vinegar, a splash of red wine vinegar, and garlic. Now we're not going to put the garlic cubes in it, obviously, the garlic cloves, because they haven't really been, they've been steamed, but they're still tough, so you don't want to like put those in. Okay, so give the meat a toss in that delicious buttery liquidy solution. All right. Now we're going to take our pico de gallo from earlier, and a good heap into there. Give that more of a toss. Now, I'm going to have you add another scoop of pico to the process. I'm going to watch these herbs. So the herbs we have here, or the greens we have, is more fronds of dill, about a tablespoon, little ends of green onion, about a tablespoon of cilantro. Just going to dice that all up. Alright, now you're going to add about half of that in. scallion. All right, now it's time to finally bring all your components together. So we're first, when you get your gazpacho out of the fridge, it is going to be a little thick. And it is, I mean, that's just the way it is a thick soup. It's not really like soup in the soup sense, but you can just get it out with as much water or stock as you would like. And then obviously just get it in your bowl. Then we're going to take our ceviche that we've had chilling and hanging out in the fridge. Get your shitty saran wrap off of it. So good. Just gonna get that right on top. We're gonna take this, the Oaxacan crema, which I thinned out with just some milk. You just add some milk, just use the cap to measure, just like 3, 4, 5, 6 lushes, just so you get it to a consistency where you can get it easily drizzled with a spoon. I'm just gonna go around. You can also use creme fraiche, sour cream, cream cheese. Although with the lobster, like, I don't know, maybe don't do that to the lobster.
Right. Be nice to the lobster.
Treat it as luxurious as it should be treated.
Exactly.
Okay. And we're gonna take some dill fronds. Kind of just break them up. You don't need to chop them, just tear them up with your fingers. You give a little garnish sprinkle with the dill. Dill and lobster are really good friends. And then we have the nice crusty golden bread that Evanne brought over. With all of its nuts and grains and seeds. Get that right on the cutting board. And then I just softened some butter, sweet cream butter, and then added coarse ground sea salt, also known as fleur de sel. It's like French finishing salt, really decadent. And just put that on top of the butter, and put the butter in a cute little mason jar. Because I'm a witch, so obviously I have a gazillion jars. Because we all do. We all do, which is, there's not a jar which has a past that they didn't like.
Exactly.
All right, there you have it. We are now going to enjoy this and eat and have what is basically like breakfast, lunch, and dinner all at once. So, because it only takes a long time. If we were just cooking this to make this, it would have been whatever, but this takes a while.
Yeah.
We realize as a kid how long these things actually take to do.
Oh, no, not even
and more time when it's just just two of you and not a whole crew, like
exactly.
on cooking shows on network television and stuff. So, yeah, anyway, we're gonna eat, we're gonna enjoy. Please do not hesitate to make this. It is so delicious and perfect for your summer solstice, Lita,
and Juno Moneda.
Juno Moneda. Enjoy.
For those who observe.
That was so good.
That was. I just wish that I could eat a bowl of that all the time.
Yeah, it turned out really well. You know what it made me think of? Our time on the East Coast together.
Oh my
in
gosh,
Connecticut,
yes!
during my first marriage.
Right. The one you throw into the fire after it's done.
Correct. But that does remind me of all the amazing places throughout the East Coast and Northeast that we ate that were just delicious during that summer.
Especially that beach hand Rhode Island.
Oh my god, yes. Yes, it was incredible. So yeah,
And that goes back to Juno as well and Hera, because one of the places that she was very heavily worshipped was in the island of Rhodes.
Look at that. Rhode Island, Rhodes. Look at that. That is amazing. So next, we get the SpellCraft.
This is a very exciting SpellCraft, isn't it?
This was not as was intended to be the segment that we were even doing at all. We hadn't even at the time figured out for sure what we were doing for SpellCraft. We've been throwing some ideas around, but we had this idea to go to a magical marketplace that was going on and film, and it's supposed to be like super huge and at this enormous mall here in the Pacific Northwest, and we were going to go check it out, and you know, we did, and it just ended up not being what it was supposed to be, and it was kind of disappointing, but people try as hard as they can, so shout out for the effort.
Exactly.
It just unfortunately didn't turn out to be kind of what was advertised, and there wasn't really much to work with, so this instead came about, and we thought about, you know, we had talked about maybe doing something with the Fae folk and reaching out to the Fae and how you kind of go about that, especially living in an urban environment where your access to the woods or to natural spaces, maybe you live in the desert, so like natural parks or something, but like maybe they're not you live in a place where that's not easily accessible to you. How do you make that work with the limited spaces, natural spaces you do have? So we put ourselves to the test, yes, and went and found out.
This was our witchy runway moment, and we made it work.
Yes. So we went through some stuff. We also had some magical experiences. We went through the forest. We went to reach out to the fae folk. We started in a park that looked like it was a formidable trail, because here in Tacoma, we have a lot of ravines and gulches that are trails that all interconnect, and you can get through this entire side of the north end of Tacoma through them.
Just like the ones that I traveled down on my 5K.
Right. And so we were like,
oh, it's going to be like that.
We know where, and we had an idea of technically where it should have connected to, and we knew that was a known trail, so we were like, okay, we'll do that. Well, that did not turn out to be the case, but instead we did feel that we did connect with the fae folk.
Yeah.
So we brought offerings, we brought honey, we brought this incense called Summer Days, we brought a candle. You know, their spirits show respect to their light as a beacon. You're a witch, use that candle almost as a lighthouse, as a light, as a beacon to, you know, pulsate to the fae folk. And, you know, bring things, you know, like honey, because, you know, it's a good offering to leave. But yeah, we went on a journey.
Yes.
And we took you along with us. Okay, see. So here I am. It's me, Marcus.
Hi, here I am.
There's Evanne. And we are going to show you the great way to summon the fae folk. Hopefully they'll show up. If not showing up on camera, that's okay. That's not the point of this. It's midsummer. It's the perfect time to contact the fae. And here we are.
In the middle of the woods, in the middle of the forest.
Yes, we are in the forest. We found an awkward clearing, hence why we are sitting awkwardly.
Yes. But is there any other type of clearing? I don't think so.
I don't either. So it's really important that when you're reaching out to the fae, that your intentions are pure, you're open and honest about why you're seeking communication with them, and you be patient, you wait, you listen, you commune, you do all those wonderful things. Ideally, you don't sit crookedly.
Right, like we are doing now.
Painful knoll.
But sometimes there's no other option.
Correct.
That's why we're doing it.
So, first and foremost, you want to have your offerings of respectability. We have some Summer Day incense, Summer Days incense. We have some honey, and we have some water, and most importantly, we have ourselves, our witchcraft, and our intention. Whatever. I want to connect with them because I'm a fucking witch.
Yeah.
I want to connect with you guys, fae folk, if you're out here listening. I want to connect with you guys because I feel like as a witch it's important. Because I used to be able to connect with you guys when I was younger, and I feel like I've lost that. I'm not necessarily looking for a sign of anything because I'm a witch, you know?
Right.
I have enough magical shit happening in my life that I don't need like proof of anything. I would just like to recommune and reconnect with nature and with the forces that you are and all that you guys govern, and I'd like to dance with you and make music with you and frolic with you. So if you guys are listening, like, we have offerings, we have gifts for you guys. Have this beautiful incense for you guys. We have a candle for you. Water we offer. Make sacred this day. Connect us to fairy. Connect us to fae. And lastly, we have this delicious honey to offer you. I'm going to put it on this leaf here so we're not leaving plastic crap around. invite you, blessed nature spirits, we invite you, blessed sprites, to enjoy this honey on this night. In this evening light, we welcome you through sunlight rays. And shadowed haze. Shall we go forth?
Your booty.
We'll take this with us and relight it in a new spot. Now that you know that we're seeking you,
Yes.
come follow us.
Quickly journey deeper into your land.
Make us a part of your world.
Yes.
Ooh. Okay. Set you right here so you can dry really quick. All right, so now we're gonna go to another spot. We're gonna go further into the forest, just so you can see. Dear Fae folk, we just would like to connect you, witches to fairy, fairy to witches. We mean you no harm, we mean you definitely no disrespect. We would just like to commune and connect with you.
We would like to honor your forest and your presence within it.
I mean, the Fae do take the form of owls and other creatures.
Yeah.
Obviously, it could just be an owl.
Yeah.
But my
But
interest is piqued.
yeah.
My interest is piqued.
And we're communing with the Fae folk.
It wasn't like a whistle, it was like a
call.
Like a call.
Yeah.
Not like a battle call, but like a call out to like, everybody come forward.
Right.
Like, over there. By the honey.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That really was cool. Like, I feel like that's like the most undeniable thing we've heard so far.
Yeah. The owls have completely stopped. Did you know that? Like, the owls just done.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was a fairy. I do. I think that was a fae.
I do too. Just tell.
Alright. You do have the feeling that we're pretty sure you did reach out with us and connect with us.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for that. We're going to leave you now. Please enjoy your evening revelries, frolicking in the forest of glee. And I don't know if that's really what you guys call it, but probably not. But it feels like a forest of glee. So thank you. And
thank you for allowing us a little glimpse into your world. We respect you guys so much.
And please, we hope that you will find us and we will find you and connect. And we'll be back, maybe not to this spot because it was a little more difficult then to get back here. But we'll probably do one of the other Gulch trails that actually has like the trail, like maybe the Puget Park one. So, or the one behind Annie Wright.
Yeah.
So we will, yes, but we will be seeking you more. Please don't hesitate to come forth and say hi to us.
Yes.
Thank you. So we just came out of the forest. We're alive.
We are.
We are hearing like some crazy things.
Yeah.
So we're pretty sure maybe we made some contact. I'm trying to get a good angle on this. And it's just not happening. Yeah, so we're pretty sure that we made some contact, and we've been hearing like what sounds like literally people like literally just like in front of us walking, like trudging through. I would say probably like if I had to give a height, 2-3 feet tall.
Yeah.
But like trudging like right in front of us, beside us, like purposefully, like as if moving out of the way because we spotted them, but they're invisible. We heard just now like a branch was snapped, like someone stepped on it, like right in front of a van, like it was like right next to her, as if someone had like walked right up on her. But nothing. So yeah, we're pretty sure it's good. Gonna review footage, see if anything cool, interesting pops up. Yeah, blessed Summer Solstice, blessed Midsummer's Night Eve, or a Midsummer's Night Dream. Ooh.
I wonder if these fail will bring us some Midsummer Night Dreams.
I hope so. That would be nice.
Well, wasn't that magical?
It was really magical, and like, you know, yeah, you never know. Like, I mean, the Fae folk, they're gonna scope you out. Like, that's just kind of how it's gonna be. They're gonna scope out who you are first. They might not, and probably won't make contact right away, but you know, hopefully if you do, you see like, I did an off-the-cuff spell. Yeah. I just went with how I try to like make them, I mean, I can't always get them to rhyme on the spot, but I do try to get them to, or have some kind of beat. That's one thing about SpellCraft that I like in the folklore, historically, like, and obviously you don't have to do it at all. A lot of people cast spells and they don't make the shit rhyme or anything. You just
I typically don't actually.
Yeah. So I just like to. I feel witchier when I do. You know, just however you want to do it, but like it helped as a witch. Like, remember, you're a witch. Like, we have magic. We connect to the ephemeral world, to the liminal places, to the world of spirits, to the world of the divine. Like, we're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and we're able to connect and reach out and lift veils and barriers. Like you saw, I didn't summon them to us in a command. It was a, hear us, see our beacon. It was enchanting the flame, enchanting the offerings, so that then they will do their purpose. And then it was spells to lift the veil of our eyes and let us see, and give us sight beyond sight into the realm. Exactly. Because that's really important. You don't want to try to command them or order them, because they will fuck you up.
Oh, for sure.
Like, but you can still do spells and spell work to help you in reaching out to them and making sure that they see your beacon, and that you're not just, a bunch of kids get, smoking pot in the woods and like just hanging out and maybe having some candles lit or something, just be it, whatever. Like, you want to make sure that they know that it is for them. So you can enchant the flame so that it'll beacon to them, and it'll draw their attention.
You just want to make sure that, as with any entity or deity or anything like that, that they really do feel your respect when you come to them.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, we will, hopefully this won't be the last time. We're just probably not gonna go to that location again, because as you saw, like, oh my god, especially when we encountered like the poison oak.
Oh my goodness.
And luckily, like, again, being witches and being in a place that was, at that point we were like, okay, there's a bunch of fae folk here in this area. We summoned the magic of that water, of that stream that was running through, and as soon as we just splashed it onto the part that had the fucking infection, like, it just like went away.
Exactly.
Like, immediately just washed away. And I firmly believe, had we done that and not enchanted it wouldn't have worked, because I have in the past encountered both poison oak and poison ivy. Once where it was like horrific. I got a surprise trip to Disneyland to California and shit that day, and it happened right after I had gotten out of the woods, and my brother and I both were covered in like poison oak and shit, and we had bumps all over our fucking body.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm telling you, splashing water on it didn't do shit.
No, I bet
like,
not.
But, you know, so yay witchcraft.
Right.
And then, of course, as you saw, like, what stopped us at the end after we were like, okay, we're done, they were walking through the fort. Like, it was like...
We heard them all around us.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
And it was just something that you were not able to mistake for something else, you know?
Yeah, and the fucking thing started having that, like, glimmer of, like, fairydom. Like, it would kind of, you would sit there and almost things would almost have a vapor effect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and yeah, it was just, it was cool. It was crazy cool.
It really was. They're just such magical beings.
They really are. So hopefully, you know, you guys have your own experience, but you see now, like, that, yeah, it can be hard, but you have, like, your own spaces. If you can find at least even a piece of, like, natural space in your city, in your town, even if you don't have it, like you live in an apartment complex or a building, you don't have that shit. But if you have access to trails or access to something, you know, you can make do. And like with the honey offering, as you saw, it was a honey packet from McDonald's.
Yeah.
That came with the hash browns I got. Like, you know, and obviously I didn't leave the packaging, threw that away, but like, we took that with us. But like, we put it on a cup of leaf, and you know that was, but we made do. Like, and it wasn't expensive honey. It was literally a little cup of honey from McDonald's. Like, that's how you improvise. That's how you do it in real time. Just, you're a witch. You can do it. Make it work.
Use what you have about you.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that being a witch is all about connecting to your surroundings.
It's true. Exactly. No matter how urban or rural or in between it is.
Exactly.
All right. So next and last, we're not doing Pagan Invasion.
No.
That was horrific. We are, though, doing Witchy Media Review.
Yes, which is a very exciting film.
2005 summer blockbuster, The Skeleton Key, starring Kate Hudson.
And Peter Sarsgaard. This follows the story of Nurse Caroline Ellis, who quits her job. And actually, oddly enough, we mentioned New Jersey, and she was from New Jersey.
Yes, the Garden State.
Yes, she was.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that. So, she is no longer living in New Jersey. She is in Louisiana. She quits her job to take care of elderly Ben Devereaux, who had a stroke and can't talk.
Yes.
When she gets to his house in Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, she meets his wife Violet, who acts suspicious and creepy.
Yes.
The family's lawyer, Luke Marshall, convinces Caroline to stay. She goes to the attic and finds a secret room there full of spells, hair, and bones used to practice voodoo. But Violet says that she has never seen the secret room, but we all know she's lying.
Of course.
Caroline wants to help Ben, thinking that Violet has put the spell upon him. She knows hoodoo can't hurt someone who doesn't believe in it. Can Caroline save Ben, or will she be ending up the one who needs to be saved?
So, I do love this movie.
I do
Absolutely,
too.
1,000%.
You know, although I will say, like, it took me a couple of watches to warm me up to this movie.
I will say, and here's the thing, I will say that over time, there are things about it that have made me love it slightly less than what I did when I first saw it.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. I think it's deep, and like, it gives you that feel of like that, like Eve's Bayou, like old,
definitely.
like that thing Vibe Sinners gives you.
In fact, my actually favorite scene is when Caroline decides to go to a hoodoo practitioner and find out what she's doing so that she can hopefully help Ben. And then she goes home and performs a water spell on him.
That's my favorite scene. The water spell with the bowl and putting in like the hitting with the
wash away his affliction.
Wash away his affliction. Oh my god, it was so good.
Yeah, that scene just like it brings me all the vibes.
Yes. I will say that like, obviously, I think the commentary on the fact that like Mama Cecile and Papa Justify continue to adopt white folk.
Yes.
Like continue to adopt white people in terms of, and when I mean adopt as in soul trading and hopping with them and taking their body and putting them the body that they are no longer using and just continue to swap and then commit those people or kill them. Is that like as time moved on, we got into the 2000s, they started wanting to go back to hopping back into black people because now it was at a time where you could get away with living in a big mansion and being African American.
Exactly.
Whereas
before that, it was not like
so you would have to keep being in white people. But the irony was, by the time it got to a point where they could do that,
they no longer wanted to.
Black folk were like, no, remember, the black folk weren't going to stay. They couldn't do it anymore.
That's right.
The black people were too smart, and they were like, oh, no. And so they were never able to. So it was like as soon as it was in a place where they could go back to being black.
Yeah, they couldn't keep a black person around.
They couldn't keep a black person around long enough to possess with their scheme because they knew better.
Exactly.
So they had to stay with white people. And that was like a big complaint of like another white woman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that scene.
Yeah. Like
it was such a brief scene at the end that I don't think of it off the top of my head when I think of the movie.
Like I just love the house. The set
me
like
too.
the house,
love
like
it.
And it just like mostly like the fucking like all the like life-size portraits of all the saints and all the life-size statues of the saints that were around.
Yes.
Because it made me, back then I remember it made me think of Merrick and how when they go to, by Anne Rice, came out in 2000, it follows Merrick Mayfair as one of the crossover books between the Vampire Chronicles and the Mayfair Witches, the bridge being the Talamasca, and David Talbot being of the Talamasca, and he got put in a younger man's body, and then Lestat made him into a vampire, was the whole thing. Anyway, if you follow the show or anything, you'll catch up. Just the Interview with the Vampire show, not the Mayfair Witches show, that's trash. But, sadly.
Which is kind of interesting that the book came out in 2000 and then this movie in 2005.
Yeah.
So clearly it did have those influences.
Yeah, it felt, I remember it feeling like it did back then. And, but in it, Merrick Mayfair's grandmother's house is like full of like these life-size portraits of saints and these statues. And, but of course, obviously, they're drag stand-ins for the actual Loa or Odisha they worship. And I do believe their specific branch was Candomblé in the book.
Yes.
So it would have been Odishas, yeah. And I think that is just amazing. Like, I just think the whole thing is like, I believe it is Odishas and not Loa, but could be wrong. But I just think that so there were things that were just influenced. It also just told a really good generational ghost story.
Oh, it really did. I also loved the scene where you find out the origins of why the house is like that.
Yes,
you know?
yes. It gave me Mayfair Witches, Anne Rice Mayfair Witches vibes, Witching Hour vibes back in 2005, when that was kind of the closest I thought I would ever probably get to like a Mayfair, because there was a whole controversy for years of trying to get the Mayfairs made, so like decades long.
So sad that it finally happened.
And then it was this trash. But yeah, I loved it. Sometimes a rare gem comes along and could star Kate Hudson.
Right.
Sometimes it does. All I can say about that.
Right.
The music was sick.
Oh, love
the
music.
Invocation by Papa Justify is like my favorite.
I love that so much.
Yeah, so good. I will say, having that, it was still centered on a white woman though, like just kind of does. It's not why I can't give it a full moon. I'm gonna give it like a waxing gibbous. Yeah. So more than a crescent, something fat, like close to a full moon.
Yeah, but not quite there.
But not quite there.
Yeah. And then it's like, you know, the friend whose knowledge she takes advantage of for her own purpose is the black friend, you know.
Exactly. It was just stupid in that regard. Like, I just thought that was a stupid thing to do. It was 2005, and that was also when we got the Covenant, aka Mancraft.
Oh yes, Mancraft.
Like, so there was a lot of things that centered around like Abercrombie, American Eagle type looking people, and blondness, and Paris and Nicole, and like it was just a time, and it rubbed me the wrong way then too. Like, I was sad that I didn't get more from her friend. I felt like her friend should have been more involved and should have like saved the day, or like. But
then, like a lot of black people, she was like, I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
You know?
Good luck, girl. Have fun in your creepy house in the bayou. But you know, yeah.
Well, that's about it for our thoughts on this movie. We love it. We wish we could love it a little more, but we still love it.
Thank you for joining us again for another Sabbath special. We really hope you enjoyed all of it.
Yes.
Remember, if you loved it, if you liked it, if you all this shit, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
And do all the witchy things.
Yes, and you know, let us know. I know it's cheesy and silly at times, but we enjoy making it, and we hope that you enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
With that being said, we have one more thing for you guys. Just a little gift from us to you on the Summer Solstice Special.
Fire burn and wood bark sing, summer's light and fae folks ring, grant abundance and blessings from us to thee. This is our gift to you, so mote it be.
Quick, I think Stillwater Baptist is coming for us. Let's get out of here.
Let's go. I forgot my phone.